Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
All right, it's kind of an emergency scoop session here with our guy Darren Doogie Wilson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. You guys had a presence out at Lambeau Field and in the locker room and at the press conferences yesterday, Doogs. Usually we would have you in on a Tuesday and then a Thursday. With the trade deadline tomorrow and the Kirk Cousins injury yesterday, we figured let's do some switching around here. So welcome into the show. What was your reaction watching the Vikings claw their way back to 500, but then Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles tendon, creating sort of a mixed vibe here on this Monday?
Devastating, right? I mean, he's been an Iron Man. He literally never gets hurt. As durable a quarterback since he took his first snap many, many years ago in Washington. From that moment until yesterday, like outside of a COVID positive test, he just doesn't miss games. Now to suffer this injury, I think back to the Netflix series, right? Reading to his son about what an injury can do to derail a season. Now it has happened. I like the man. I really do. Maybe it's the Netflix series, right? I've come around big time on Kirk the person. So I just feel horrible in a contract year for this to happen, the way he was rolling. Phil, we talked about this last week. I was more confident than ever after watching the first 3 quarters yesterday. This Vikings team with Kirk, better than last year's 13-win team.
Agreed.
This team legitimately had a chance. Now, if you want to say Philadelphia, fine, or Dallas, or even San Francisco with their 3-game losing streak. But to me, the NFC, very wide open. Like this team, because of the way the defense has been playing, I really felt like had a chance to make at least some sort of run in January, win at least one playoff game, maybe go on a roll. I get it. Detroit's schedule incredibly favorable. So maybe they were staring at a 6 or a 7 seed. Thus would have had to win at like Detroit, San Francisco, and either Philly or Dallas just to win the NFC. So I'm not suggesting they were going to win the NFC, but I thought, hey, they can win at least one playoff game. Now, whoever the starting quarterback is moving forward, I'm sorry. Even if they make a trade, bring in some outsider, right? Like, they're not going to be even in the same, to me, stratosphere as they could have been with Kirk Cousins. So just feel horrible for him. Many of his teammates who I've gotten to know, at least on a pretty good professional level, how devastated they must be. I'll be in the locker room later this afternoon to take more of a temperature check. But, yeah, I feel horrible for a lot of people.
So, Dukes, what do the gremlins, the sources, the spies tell you this morning about the potential route? And at least I would guess that they have begun, if they were going to reach out to options outside the organization.
Well, and others are reaching out to them, right? Like agents. You think about Ryan Grigson's phone, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's phone blowing up yesterday afternoon into the night. Many of these free agent options, the Joe Flacco's of the world, right? Joe Flacco wants to play. Right? There's an obvious job opening here now. So, it's a two-way street. Sure. I'm sure the Vikings are making some calls, sending some text messages, but it's also with the street free agents, those agents reaching out to the Vikings. I just wonder, I don't have any inside information right this second on this, but the fact that Colt McCoy, has history with Kevin O'Connell, that he was in town for a look-see a couple weeks ago. I just wonder if they go like that route or somebody like that as opposed to a trade for someone like Ryan Tannehill, something like that. And Ryan still is battling that high ankle sprain. Like making a move for a Tannehill type, even a Jameis Winston type, like I think that would surprise me. I think bringing in a street free agent makes a bit more sense. Bottom line, I fully anticipate Jaren Hall starting on Sunday in Atlanta.
So much of this depends on what do they really want, right? I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see Jaren Hall play for a few games and just see what he looks like. If they really want to just hit the throttle and keep winning games, right? I don't know that you have time to allow him. I mean, it would have to be a really impressive feat for him. I know we've seen it with Brock Purdy, but that is the exception when it comes to guys drafted 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, right? Flacco does nothing for me, but we did a list of like 12 guys today on Purple Daily. Matt Ryan played in this system and won an MVP 6 years ago. He wants to play. He's in the broadcast booth right now.
Well, he called one of the Vikings games a few weeks ago, right? So
he called the first game of the year.
He has seen the Vikings up close.
Yeah. So, there are guys like that. If they really feel like, hey, listen, man, Jaren Hall would be fun to but we're a serious team right now. I don't know that a serious team rolls with a rookie 5th-round pick and really no safety net behind him unless you think that Nick Mullins is going to come in and win you a bunch of games. I wonder where their head's at here in the next 24 hours and all the other decisions, Doogie. They're probably getting a bunch of calls today and tomorrow on Danielle Hunter, right?
They absolutely are. I mean, they already have. Now, until I hear otherwise, I see Danielle here on Wednesday. Like, I don't think they make a move, even in this moment of, now looking like the season is about to go completely, sideways. The season has been derailed. I still think Danielle is here on Wednesday. I will tell you on Nick Mullins, like the word behind the scenes when they re-signed him, just everything you hear is they have a very, very favorable opinion of him.
Yeah.
Like they like Nick Mullins more than I think a lot of people realize. Now the question is tricky injury, back injury, enough of a back injury that caused them to put him on IR. So to miss 4 games, he is eligible to come back for the New Orleans game on November 12th. My understanding is in the moment, this is not like a big time injury, but like the back. That's a very easy injury to re-injure, right? But I guess it is possible that, okay, you start Jaren on Sunday against Atlanta, then you have Nick Mullins from that moment moving forward, but you bring in some sort of street free agent, let it play out for a couple weeks, a Colt McCoy, a Matt Ryan, somebody like that, and see through the next few weeks if that street free agent makes sense to play starting, whether it's November 12th or thereafter, maybe the game in Denver. But I'm just telling you, like right now, as we sit here at 10:15 a.m. Central on Monday morning, making a trade, even for an Andy Dalton, I guess that would, right now, that would surprise me. Not shock me, but it would surprise me.
And I think part of this, too, that has to be kept in mind is Jaren Hall almost has to start Sunday. Well, like you're not going to make a trade or sign a guy off the street and say, here's the playbook, Sporto. We're playing the Falcons on Sunday. So I don't think they have a choice there. I mean, Jaren Hall
I agree. Yeah, Jaren's starting Sunday, right?
He knows
I'll
the
be
verbiage.
shocked if Jaren doesn't start on Sunday.
But to your point, Dukes, and something that's important to keep in mind is Nick Mullins was obtained from the Raiders in training camp a year ago because Mannion and Mond had looked so terrible. And so when we're talking about, well, just trade a late round draft pick for a backup. One, teams are going to try to get you now because you're desperate. So like if you go to them and say, give us Dalton, they're going to be like, yeah, we sure will. And here's our asking price. But the other thing too is Nick Mullins, for better or for worse, and I know he's been a backup here, so he's forgotten about a lot, but he sort of qualifies as that guy. Like they went out and got him because they liked him. I think it was a conditional, I think it was a 7th round pick. And so like Nick Mullins is sort of the guy that we're talking about. So the more I think about this, I think it's going to be Hall on Sunday. And if Hall fails miserably against the Falcons, there's a very good chance that if he is set to return, Dukes, that it's going to be Mullins against the Saints the following week. I would not be shocked by that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, now, hey, if Jaren plays well, we just saw Will Levis dominate the Falcons. Now Grady Jarrett tore an ACL, so perhaps the Falcons' best defensive player won't be playing on Sunday. So it's entirely possible that Jaren, with a week of preparation, plays at least okay, maybe even better than okay on Sunday, that you then would say, okay, November 12th against New Orleans, coming off a semi to good game from Jaren, that Jaren would be the guy November 12th. But I don't think they go like all in on some sort of trade. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I agree with you. I think like some of the options out there, Andy Dalton, he's important to what they're doing in Carolina, developing Bryce Young. He's under contract. They're not just going to trade him for a 6th round pick at this point.
Well, you know what? Let me piggyback on that. So I did chat with Mike Tannenbaum, the former Jets and Dolphins executive, now a talking head and analyst at ESPN, but he certainly has his fingerprints all across the league. In fact, former agent as well. In fact, he worked at Priority Sports as an agent with Kirk Cousins' agent, Mike McCartney. So he knows Mike Tannenbaum knows Mike McCartney, Kirk's agent, very well. So Mike Tannenbaum told me early this morning what he would do. He actually thinks there's a stronger likelihood now that Kirk re-signs with the Vikings. He would re-sign Kirk, all right, and go sign a street free agent. He mentioned Colt McCoy. So that was his thinking, that you don't make a big move. But he also said what you just said, that Andy Dalton isn't being had for a 6th or 7th.
Right.
That Carolina, even though Bryce is playing, that there is importance behind the scenes, and we all get it. Carolina is rock bottom, although congratulations to them on finally winning a game yesterday. But Carolina's rock bottom, but there is an importance behind the scenes in that quarterback room, Andy Dalton with Bryce Young. So just in the moment of this morning, Mike Tannenbaum, who knows infinitely more than I do, just doesn't think Carolina moves him, especially for, a low day 3 draft pick.
Yeah. Do you think Kyler Murray should be a conversation inside the walls at the Vikings practice
Well, I
facility?
think everybody needs to be a conversation, but do I think Kyler Murray is getting traded here in the next 36 hours? No, I don't, or whatever it is at this point, 32 hours, 34 hours, whatever it is. I don't, or 29 hours, whatever it is. I don't think Kyler Murray is getting traded here by 3 o'clock Central Tuesday afternoon. Now, maybe that's a more realistic conversation to have come March, right? But, I guess you kick around everything, right? You at least kick around the idea, even though he didn't look great as he finished up his Tampa career, but don't you at least kick around the idea of making sure that Tom Brady says no? Like, I'm positive he'll say no.
You got to get rejected. Get rejected by Tom Brady. Yeah.
They'll
Right,
reach
but
out.
don't you at least make the phone call, make the inquiry to Tom's representation just to make sure, okay, is he 100% retired? So I think you're kicking around all these ideas. I think that's what they're doing literally right now in Egan.
So where does this put things too? Because let's just say, for the sake of the conversation, that they don't make a move. And I really, if they don't, I can't blame them. Again, this isn't like a starting pitcher has gone down and you're like, okay, we're going to trade a couple of prospects for a new starter, and bang, that guy's starting at Target Field on Tuesday. This is a quarterback who has to know your system and the intricacies, and is he familiar with what O'Connell does, which is an extension of what McVay and Shanahan do. Lots of unknowns here. So let's say that Jaren Hall starts against the Falcons, which I think we all agree will happen, and then it's Hall or Mullins going forward. What is the expectation? And more importantly, Dukes, this, as someone who is in the locker room a lot, because on PD today, we talked about the fact that I don't think you can go in that room on Wednesday and say, hey, we just traded Hunter and we traded Hicks, and we're sorry we cut you all off at the knees. And yes, you're 4-4, but with Kirk out. Because culturally, I think that would be a form of just complete sabotage and betrayal. But if this whole thing sticks status quo and they go with the quarterbacks, what's your feeling about the locker room buy-in to that?
Well, realistically speaking, Judd, they have to be thinking, oh, bleep.
Oh, sure.
We can't make any sort of significant run at this point. Now, on the record, they will be very supportive of Jaren. We all know how favorable a schedule the Vikings have moving forward. Do I still think there's a pathway to even 9 wins, but certainly 8 wins? To be in that mix for that 7 seed? You look at some of these teams that will be competing for the 7 seed, New Orleans, Atlanta, Tampa, the Rams, the Commanders. Certainly not the Packers, not the Bears. I don't think the Giants, but the Vikings as well. If we're saying, okay, Dallas, Seattle, right, or San Francisco, depending on who wins the NFC West, depending on who wins the NFC East. But if we're saying, okay, the 4 division winners, let's just say New Orleans, right? So New Orleans, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit. So then you're saying Dallas, Seattle are seeds 5 and 6. So then you've got Tampa, Atlanta, the Rams, the Vikings, right? Who is the 7 seed? So the 7 seed is still absolutely sitting there for the taking, even with Jaren and or Nick Mullins. But realistically, Judd, the chances of them now winning a playoff game, 7 seed Vikings at 2 seed Detroit or 2 seed San Francisco in mid-January, first weekend of playoff action, no. You're not winning that game on the road, right? I have a hard time seeing that. I really do. So
I want to go.
They're going to say everything right, but deep down, they have to feel like our season is now bleeped.
I want to go back to something you mentioned. You talked to former league executive, general manager Mike Tannenbaum, who's on ESPN's Get Up Now, and he's part of that sort of fun house in the mornings. And you mentioned that he thinks this might act just because of the uncertain nature of the injury. The Vikings are familiar with Cousins. His price tag is not going to be the same as it was, obviously, before this happened, that this might actually lead to him re-signing with the Vikings for a year or two.
And by the way, he said he would do that. Like, now, easier said than done, depending on the exact dollar figures, but Tannenbaum was all about this absolutely should be the move the Vikings make. You re-sign Kirk Cousins. You draft a quarterback in April, 2024 draft, but you also re-sign Kirk on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, what do you think that 2-year deal looks like?
Oof.
Is there any I'm trying to think of if there's precedent.
Is there a precedent?
Yeah, like Rodgers had the deal before the Achilles, so you can't use that one. I'm trying to think of an aging quarterback that suffered an injury, and it's like, okay, we don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. He's a free agent. Let's bring him back in-house.
It's bonuses, right?
There must be
Incentives?
Some sort of example. Gosh darn, Phil. I mean, it's a good question.
I sprung it on you here. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
there's nobody that immediately hits me, but I guarantee there has to be some sort of example of that. But if we were talking pre-Achilles, 35 to 40-ish million, right? I mean, like the base has to be like cut
10, 15.
in half at least, right? Then bonuses, Judd. I mean, you can lay all that stuff out, but like you can't be committing $30-ish million guaranteed to a guy coming back from a torn Achilles.
And then he would have to know, hey, we want you back in the house, but based on your age and this injury and our future, we're going to draft maybe in the first round your replacement. You're going to have to be sort of comfortable living in that house as you recover from, it's a very, and he might decide, you know what, if you're going to move on and not commit fully to me and my rehab, then I'm going to move on. Like that's where that conversation.
I mean, it is possible it could go that route, but I also would hope that Kirk is realistic coming off a torn Achilles as he turns 36 in the next year or so, that you just have to be realistic. Like if you were Kwesi, why wouldn't you draft J.J. McCarthy or somebody else in the first round, the Michigan quarterback, or Drake May, the North Carolina quarterback? Like there needs to be some sort of very definitive succession plan, with all due respect to Jaren Hall, something that is clear cut, right? So I would hope that Kirk could wrap his arms around that idea, but you're right. It's entirely possible that he does not, that he enjoys, seeing what's out there on the open market come early March.
Why would you re-sign Cousins if you're going to draft a first-round QB, though?
Because you don't want to thrust that guy, that there is something to be said about that guy waiting a little bit.
I'm not. No, he was a starter here for too long. No, I'm either bringing him back to try and start again, or I am going to like at the end of the day, this is a business. I'm not bringing him back and sticking him in a locker room where I clearly is popular, and then putting that shadow over a first round QB. I would bring in a veteran to help. But yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm either re-signing Kirk to a 2-year contract with the intention he's going to start, or I'm drafting a QB, which, by the way, I would do. And I'm saying, Kirk, thank you very much. That's it.
Well, I mean, I can see them doing both, though, Judd. And are you suggesting then the shadow would be too much for this first-round rookie quarterback? Because if it is, then is he the right guy to begin with? Like, if he's going to curl up in the fetal position thinking it's an uncomfortable locker room position to be in, then he's not my guy anyway.
Here.
Yeah, but Kirk's going to expect to start. Like, he was the starter here. If Kirk could do this elsewhere, perhaps, but I have a hard time believing that you're going to bring him back into this room and say, but develop this guy. I mean, that's never been Kirk's role.
You guys are
that's fair.
No, hold on.
You're right. He's never been that guy. Yeah.
You guys are hung up on the first-round draft pick. Let me paint a different scenario, because I think, like, if you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, it does change it. Let's say Jaren Hall plays pretty well. Not like blow your socks off, run the table Brock Purdy last year, where it's like, there's a little something here. Not enough to where we would like turn the whole franchise over to him, but he can play a little bit, and we'd like to keep exploring this scenario. Isn't that a more likely grounds for Kirk Cousins coming back also? And now it's kind of like, equal footing here. Hey, it's kind of a competition. If you come back, we like Jaren Hall. if you're gonna draft Drake May, I don't think Kirk wants to be in that room. I'm with you guys. But if it's like Jared Hall played pretty well, or you draft another quarterback in the second or fourth round or something, that to me is more likely for Kirk to come back as kind of a bridge competition guy.
Here's what we know. Like, the Achilles is not a death sentence. Maybe it was 2 decades ago, but any number of examples, whether it's Kevin Durant on the basketball court, heck, Aaron Rodgers yesterday before Jets Giants on the field throwing, and I get it, it's not like Aaron Rodgers is playing in a game anytime real soon, but the fact that he's a month plus removed from surgery, yet he's out there able to walk without crutches, throw the ball around. Like, it is possible Kirk undergoes surgery here in the next, 7 to 14-ish days, and would be ready to go by mid to late August heading into opening day next year.
Yeah. If Jaron Hall plays well, or if they play poorly and they draft a new quarterback and they re-sign Kirk Cousins, that would make 0 sense. It wouldn't make any sense for this organization to do. Like, not a lick of sense. Why would they do that?
I just laid it out.
And they may not. I'm just telling you what Tannenbaum
I understood your situation.
Tossed out. I agree. At this point, like, my opinion, you draft a quarterback in the first round, J.J. McCarthy or Drake May. McCarthy just might be more realistic considering the relationship Kwesi has with Jim Harbaugh. Heck, Kwesi was at the game a couple weeks ago at Huntington Bank Stadium scouting in person J.J. McCarthy. Right, that he's more in that 10 to 20 mix, not the top 3 mix. Now, it could all change based on, pre-draft workouts, hype, all that. J.J. McCarthy might win the Heisman Trophy for all we know, or at least be in that mix, and his draft stock goes way up. But, yeah, if you're going first-round quarterback, then I get it. I understand. You don't re-sign Kirk Cousins, even if it's at a very discounted rate, because the perception would be if Kirk is coming back, he's ready to go by September of 24, that he's your starting quarterback. When would you go then to your first-round pick? You're not drafting a guy to have him sit for multiple years.
Yeah. Boys, before we get to some more scoopage here, a shout-out to our friends at Park Tavern, the official neighborhood sports bar of the Sports Dad.
And Sports Dad actually was there getting a couple of Surleys and dinner on Friday. You know why? Because Park Tavern treats me right every time. The service is outstanding. The place is just absolutely a sports emporium, which is why Sports Dad loves it. St. Louis Park off of Louisiana Avenue South. Now, here's the thing about Park Tavern, too. They can accommodate your groups, and I'm talking big groups. I'm talking groups that want to watch the game. Alumni groups. Let's say you got 60, 80 people. Guess what? Park Tavern's going to find a place for you. They're going to get all of the games on. Saturdays and Sundays are just a sports buffet as well as a great food. And it's this simple. Go to parktavern.net, and there's actually a reservations tab on the homepage, so you can reserve your spot there, parktavern.net, or give Cheryl and company a call, 952-929-6810, 952-929-6810. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be able to tell you about Park Tavern's gift cards, which are legendary, which people love. So stay tuned, because those are right around the corner.
Wow, Judd teasing the gift cards for this holiday
They're
season.
very excited. Okay. They told me that they actually have when those things go on sale each year, a line out the door.
Oh, let's do it.
And people are just buying gift card after gift card. You know what? Great gifts.
Great stocking stuffers. Yes.
Amen.
Also, a shout out to our friends at Summit Orthopedics. So especially on a day like today where the entire conversation is about an injury. If you're dealing with any type of pain right now, ankles, feet, knees, wrists, whatever it may be, no referrals are needed at Summit Orthopedics, and they offer same-day appointments. If you're really hurting, they also offer walk-in orthopedic urgent care 7 days a week, starting at 8 a.m., 25 locations across the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota. You can learn more at summitortho.com. That's summitortho.com. Okay.
Reckless speculation.
Any other Vikings thoughts from you, Dukes, here before we get into the red-hot Timberwolves who won a game over the weekend and some other things?
Well, I think even with the Kirk injury, in fact, actually, I just got a text message from somebody that the Vikings are still kicking around, multiple scenarios, but that includes bringing in a street free agent. So just from somebody that has direct involvement, absolutely the Vikings are still, it's actually more text messaging with the Vikings and with me, but that the Vikings haven't ruled out that possibility. They've been telling some people, hey,
So Matt Ryan,
we're still exploring many different options. So, yeah, whether it's Matt Ryan,
Tom
Colt
Brady.
McCoy, Tom Brady.
Andrew
Yeah.
Luck.
Andrew Luck.
I make him tell me no too. Andrew,
about
you're
Sam Bradford?
142 pounds now. So apparently Sam
Bradford, 35 years old.
lives in the wilderness somewhere and has no communication with any
I thought
of
that was
his-
Jake Plummer.
I was going to say that's Jake
He
Plummer
might
too.
Dude, Sam Bradford apparently, I'm not saying he's like a caveman. I'm saying he told a bunch of his former teammates, hey, it was great playing with you. Probably the last time you're going to see me. He's like not a big public appearance guy. Once in a while,
Okay,
he
so
might
he's
go
like
to
on
an
a
Oklahoma
permanent
game.
darkness retreat?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Good
maybe.
for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope he's found happiness.
Credit to him for completely unplugging. But I guess my other point on the Vikings would be if there's an opportunity to bring in, let's say, a cornerback or a defensive lineman, if the price isn't absurd, that this is a player that they would have control of beyond this year, so it could also help them in 2024. Like, I'm not ruling out a possibility like that. Like, it's not all about, okay, let's figure out the quarterback. So just point is, just imagine how hectic the
Oh
next
my God.
30-ish hours are for Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, that entire front office.
I think if the Vikings had won and Kirk hadn't got hurt, that we would be talking this morning about a possibility of a trade with the Washington Commanders. That would have
Are
made
you
a lot of
talking
sense.
for Montez Sweat? Are you talking for
talk-
one of the pending free agent defensive linemen? Or
I'm
Jonathan
talk-
Allen?
I'm talking a wide-ranging conversation about guys on defense that could potentially help them, including a guy like Sweat.
Well, I'll give you another one, too. A
Yep.
cornerback, Fuller. Like, he absolutely. Now, is he a pending free agent? I
I'd
can't even
look
keep
that
track
up.
of the Fuller brothers. Is it Kendall Fuller that's with the Washington Commanders?
That sounds right. Yeah.
And he
But
might be a
Washington-
pending free agent.
but Washington would have
sure,
been
if
a
they had just,
conversation.
won with Kirk, maybe they would have been a little bit more open-minded too. Okay, even if this cornerback is a pending free agent, let's bring in some help. We're on a roll. Wins in 4 of our last 5, 3 in a row. Hey, that's fine if we're bringing in a pending free agent for a day 3 draft pick. This guy can really help us. So, yes, I hear you on that.
Yeah. Okay, let's empty the bag here. Timberwolves, I'm going to give these guys on Flagrant Howl some early season observations here, but boy, Naz Reid continues to get better. Rudy Gobert, to me, eye test, looks much more springy than he did a year ago at this time. So they play tonight against Atlanta. Some good things, though, in that second game against the Heat without Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I mean, you asked me on Thursday, coming off the debacle in Toronto Wednesday night, if I was pushing any sort of panic button. I said no. One game. I mean, the Wolves haven't shot that poorly in years, that wasn't going to happen again. Not that they shot incredibly better on Saturday against Miami, but they did shoot it better. The defense is still top 10. We just wonder if the offense can transition to being a top 10 unit, right? If you're going to make a deep run in the West, finish top 4, in all likelihood, you need both a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense. We feel confident about them being once again a top 10 defense. We still wonder about them being a top 10 offense. You're right about Naz, though. I mean, if you look at the numbers through the 2 games, Naz on the court versus Naz off the court, holy cow. I mean, it is significant. Then you think about the 2-man dynamic, Naz with the aforementioned Rudy Gobert. There's pretty rock solid synergy there. We still wonder about Cat with Gobert, but Gobert with Naz Reid, watching Naz play the 4, chase around guys on the perimeter, he looks pretty darn confident in that role. Glenn Taylor, by the way, when I spoke with Glenn, which seems like a million years ago, but just last Monday, 1 week ago today, Glenn made it very clear that Naz made it very clear through his representation, but also him himself, that, hey, I don't want to test free agency going back to the summer. Like, you guys took a chance on me. I really, really like it here. Let's just make the money work. 3 years, $42 million.
Yeah.
So Naz, never thought about hitting the open market. He really, really, really wanted to be here.
Where does Naz fall in the, at least potentially, because his career is still young, but where does he fall in the Timberwolves' greatest finds? Because, I mean...
Right up there.
For as bad as draft pick...
Not like it's a long list, but
as
yeah.
Culver was, though, by Gerson Rosas, and I know that Gerson got clowned on his way out of town, but I keep going back to some of the moves that guy made, and you know what? David Kahn was a clown. He was an absolute gong show. But Gerson Rosas, aside from the Culver pick, which was not his intention, My God, he made some incredibly savvy moves. And the second round pick of Jaden McDaniels, Declan's guy, and signing Naz Reid as a free agent might be two of just the most crafty, savvy moves, especially when you think about how long this franchise basically dismissed second round picks. They were selling them. McHale didn't give a damn about them. So Gerson Rosas, I think, deserves a lot more credit for shaping this team than he probably gets because of the circumstance of how he left.
Amen. I mean, I don't know if anybody really questioned Gerson's basketball acumen, right? It was, championing this family atmosphere when it was anything but that, right, internally. But in terms of just basketball knowledge, basketball moves, I mean, even selecting Anthony Edwards when it wasn't an absolute. There was legitimate discussion. Do you go Ball? Do you go Wiseman? Or do you go Anthony Edwards? Now, Ryan Saunders had something to do with that as well. There was a collective effort, some sort of collaboration, but not nearly as much collaboration as Gerson liked to suggest. But it doesn't matter. He was the final say guy. He made that decision. Yeah, Jaden late first round, but still mid to late 20s, securing Jaden, then securing the services of Naz after the draft when he had multiple options, but the Wolves sold him on a vision, convinced him to take their offer, not the offer of others. Yes, no doubt about it. And even on the miscalculation, right, in the first round in 2019, hey, look at Darius Garland. He's a cusp all-star. He is a really, really, really good player. So Gerson nailed the evaluation of Darius Garland, just made the misstep of not realizing that Cleveland would actually select him at pick 5. So then he's not there at pick 6. So then the Wolves go Jarrett Culver. Yes, missed on that one. But just, hey, look at Naz Reid as their first-round pick that year. But, the work he did post-draft 2019, then the work he did COVID year, 2020 draft. Imagine how much more complicated things were with the COVID situation to draft Anthony Edwards and to draft Jaden McDaniels. Yes. Now, he missed on the European player. Who was the other player they landed in the first round? They sent him to Utah in the Gobert trade.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Hold on.
Go to the Google. I don't have my phone handy. Yeah.
Bolmaro.
Yeah, Leandro Bolmaro.
Right?
Yeah.
Mr. Basketball.
That guy.
Yeah.
Mr.
So, maybe a little bit of a misdiagnosis on his ceiling, his potential, but to nail Ant, to nail Jaden, to nail Naz, yes, credit to Gerson. And hey, families got ripped apart, but Gerson and the woman that was at the center of everything here from the PR department, they're now married. So,
what?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know
I
that?
didn't know that.
Yeah, they're married. Yeah. So
We talked about this, I thought. Oh.
so they're married.
This is the first time
so-
I've heard that, Declan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know. I knew they were
Well, we
still
had
at
alluded
line.
to a few weeks ago that they were together, but now,
I knew they were still
are
together. I
married.
didn't know that they were
Yeah.
married. Well, good for them. That's
So,
great for them.
love, right? And it's unfortunate that two families were torn apart, but these are two people that found love. And so they are now married. So, you know what?
Doogie.
Happy for Gerson. He's living in New York. He's moved up the ladder in the Knicks organization. But his basketball acumen,
Alimony
rock solid.
payments. Like to see those alimony payments.
David
I bet he is.
Lindhagen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
David
Your
Lindhagen.
David
Lindhagen, huh?
Lindhagen.
Oh my God!
God.
What you
Dukes,
do to my friend?
Empty the scoops bag for us here before we gotta get rocking here. So give us one more minute of scoops if you have it.
Sure, I was at Gophers Basketball Media Day on Friday. Now, the optics of losing by 25 to 30 points at Colorado State 2 Saturdays ago in that secret scrimmage do not look good. But on the record, off camera, many Gophers made it very clear to me, yes, we lost, but hey, we were not playing to win. Every guy played. We were exploring
They were
different
pitching
lineups.
to the scoreboard. That's what was happening. Yes.
But I get it. The pressure is absolutely on Ben Johnson. You talk about Colorado State. It's entirely possible Nico Medved, the head coach at Colorado State, may very well this time next year be the head coach of the Gophers.
Yeah.
Right? If you're thinking about this could be Ben Johnson's last year if they don't make a significant step forward. Now, for Ben's sake, I hope they do. Right? I've made it known. I've known Ben for a long, long time. I am rooting for him. It's my alma mater. I feel like, hey, Like, I can be a little bit biased in that regard, but I'm also realistic about the situation. Now, I will say they are finally healthy, right? Isaiah Eanon, Parker Fox, injuries derailed the last couple of years. Right this second, the Gophers are very healthy heading into their opener, which is 1 week from today. They scrimmage, or I guess an exhibition, against McAllister on Thursday night at the Barn, but their official season opener 1 week from today, right? That's November 6th. So, yeah, 1 week from today. So there's a decent amount of optimism, like there is, with every program this time of the year. But I just wanted to make it clear that on mic, off camera on Friday, a lot of guys told me, do not overanalyze that we lost by 25-ish points at Colorado State.
Okay. Fair enough. There he is, Darren Doogie Wolfson from the Channel 5 Sports Department.
I also got a note from our photojournalist. Well, maybe it wasn't from our photojournalist. But anyway, PJ Fleck at his news conference this morning let it be known that he had a conversation with Kirk Cousins last night. Then also Kirk spoke to the Michigan State football team on Friday before the game on Saturday.
Wow. Kirk tried to rile up that garbage Michigan State football team.
Small scoop here. So as Dukes reported last week, the Saints and Vikings did have representation at Huntington Bank Stadium on Saturday. I'm here to confirm because I sat right by them. The Saints guy left with about 7 minutes left in the third quarter. The Vikings people packed up. The Vikings 2 scouts packed up shortly thereafter, and I followed them out the door before the fourth quarter began. So our row was empty.
Hello.
We were on the same page. There was very little talent on that field at Huntington Bank Stadium. I texted
awesome.
Dukes. I said the Saints guy's just like, all right, you guys, see you later. Bye.
Oh, gosh. You know what? I can't blame them one bit. Hey, the Gophers are winning games, but it is boring football. It really is. It's not an enjoyable watch. Now, Jordan Newman, that's a fun story.
Phil's paying good money to be there.
Hey, yeah.
I do have season tickets.
It's just not an enjoying product to consume. It's just not. It's not fun football. Right?
You know what,
and
though?
maybe
It's a
maybe
fun
we're
vibe
skewed
out there,
because we watch the
tailgate.
NFL on a regular basis.
It's fun in the club. Because Phil's in the club. Must be
All
good
good
to be in the club.
And hey,
great in
you
the
know
club.
this, even if it's going to be a 4 to 5 touchdown loss to Michigan in the Big Ten championship game or Ohio State, go win the West. As bad as it is, go win the Big Ten West, right? Win every game the rest of the way outside of the Ohio State game. Beat Illinois.
Lucky.
Fleck has struggled against Bielema the last few years, but find a way to beat lowly Illinois on Saturday. Go finish this thing strong. Go win the Big Ten West. By the way, was it Frank Acevedo, Vikings scout, that was one of the Vikings representatives there on Saturday?
Yeah, Frankie was there.
Yeah, good. All right.
And then when you do face Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, we'll see how they do without knowing our signs. Good luck. All right, Dukes.
Bert, Ernie.
We'll
All
talk
right,
to
boys.
you on
Jaden
Thursday.
McDaniels, whether back tonight, he was upgraded to questionable. I mean, he's on the cusp, whether it's tonight or Wednesday against Denver. Also, Matt Boldy expected back for the Wild at some point this week. Home games, Saturday? And actually
Thursday.
Recently,
Saturday.
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, Saturday. So anyway,
Devils.
Matt Boldy expected back
Devils.
this week.
All right, there it is.
All right,
Your
see you, boys.
emergency scoop session here. Darren Doogie Wolfson will do it again on Thursday, and plenty of fallout on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, Apple and Spotify Purple Daily from yesterday's Kirk Cousins injury and win over the Packers. We'll see you guys.
Okay, see you, boys.